Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Profit Minds podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Stephen 𝐏𝐫𝐶, creator of the Profit Minds Growth System, a unique blend of profit growth, productivity acceleration, and building robust business process for scale. In every episode, I interview entrepreneurs and small business owners from around the world with a unique story to tell. You can find the show on YouTube, LinkedIn, Apple and Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, and more. Well, hello, everyone. Today, my guest is John Neral, an executive and mid-career transition coach. And today, we're going to talk about how mid-career professionals can navigate the ever-changing, dynamic, always stressful, bang your head against the wall job market in 2026. Welcome, John.
Steve, it's great to spend some time with you today. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So I do this for every podcast. Tell us your story. How did you get here?
Yeah, I am very grateful. I had a 25-year career in education. I started out as a middle school mathematics teacher in northern New Jersey, next to the Real Housewives, but that's a totally different story and podcast episode.
We don't need to go there.
Exactly. But I loved what I was doing, but I remember teaching this lesson one day to my 7th and 8th graders, which was all about multiplying and dividing fractions. Not the most dynamic lesson, but the lesson worked. And this voice crept into my head and it said, John, you can't do this the rest of your life. Now, Steve, I worked in a district where people retired from.
Sure.
People were career educators within this district. And like we often do when we hear that little voice inside of our head, we ignore it. And then the next day it got a little louder and it got a little bit louder. And I thought, okay, so if I'm going to do something else, what is it? Well, what I learned in this whole entire process was that I loved teaching and educating, but I wanted to work more with adults. And so that started a whole journey for me within my education career about being an instructional coach. So my job as an instructional coach was to work directly with teachers in their classroom to help them be better educators that ultimately impact student achievement. Well, when that wonderful district I worked in northern New Jersey did not have a position for me, and I couldn't elevate to what that next level was, I started looking. Now, what was interesting was it ended up taking me to Washington, D.C., where I landed a job as a manager for an instructional coaching program where I supervised 21 instructional coaches across 13 middle schools. I love that job.
Wow.
That job it was one of those kind of jobs where you would go home some days and you would be so excited about what you did. And there'd be other days where I would come home and cry. And what I learned from that job was how to manage relationships, how to deliver better feedback, how to instill accountability and accountability protocols and structures, but also this conversation that was happening between my conversations with administration and leadership and my conversations with my coaching team and their educators. So I was there for 14 years in northern New Jersey. I spent 14 months at the District of Columbia Public Schools. I took a jump and went to go work for the state superintendent in Washington, D.C. I spent 14 months there. And then I ended up working as a training and staffing director for an educational nonprofit. And in that time, Steve, what I learned in that job was that my skills as a coach were needed, they were valued, but it was how could I leverage them a little bit differently? So I was having conversations with my direct leadership and with senior and executive leadership. And I survived the first reorganization really, really well. The second one, not so much.
Not so well.
Not so well. But very, very grateful I had a job. And so after that second reorg, what I learned was if what I really wanted to do was to coach people and helping them manage their careers differently, help them be more impactful leaders, if I couldn't do that there, where could I do it?
Hmm.
And so that started this whole process of going through coach certification training and ultimately making a decision to step out on my own. And when I left that job almost 9 years ago, um, when I left that job, Steve, I left it with a tremendous amount of gratitude because I knew I could help more people outside of that organization than I could inside of it. And
Hmm.
that's what brought me to where I am today.
Yeah, so that's interesting. You went from working with primarily educators and helping them navigate and how to become more effective teachers to working with executives and mid-career professionals. So what was that transition like?
So in the training and staffing director role that I had within this educational nonprofit, I was working with people who primarily were former educators. They had essentially had taken a jump to work more in the assessment industry in what I guess we could essentially classify as a quote unquote corporate type job. So these were essentially my people, right? They had been
Hmm.
educators, they stepped out, they were doing something different, and then they were just trying to navigate all of this. But one of the biggest hurdles I learned and I found out with the team that I was directly leading and also in my conversations with leadership was this wasn't a school teacher type job. This was navigating
Right.
business where sales matter and revenue is important and growth when it is accelerating exponentially. Um, that oftentimes means long hours and giving up weekends and doing whatever needs to be done for the project because when that next project comes in, you're going to be even better prepared for it. We were in a tremendous growth spurt during my time that I was there, and it let me see things from a very different lens, both from what I was directly experiencing, but also how to help the people on my team navigate whether or not that job was ultimately a great fit for them.
Hmm. And so do you do that then with these mid-career professionals and help them figure out whether or not it's a good fit for them?
Absolutely. So, one of the things that I do for a mid-career professional whom I coach and I work with is we explore what I call 4 F's. And those four F's, Steve, stand for fit. Do I fit correctly within the organization based upon its values, its mission, the working style and arrangement, the organizational culture? The second F is function. Am I doing work that really is in my wheelhouse? Do I have an opportunity to stretch, to grow, but also to demonstrate my expertise? The third F is finance. How well am I being compensated? Am I being compensated for what I believe is fair given the market and the work that I'm currently doing? And the last F is forward. And this is the one, Steve, I often find mid career professionals miss. And they miss this because up until this point, everything job wise has pretty much been transactional. We get the job, we work the job, we go on to something else. But at mid career, where we're really starting to grow and establish deeper roots within our industry, our careers, and our organizations, the forward is all about understanding that that company is the best fit for me if I can see myself moving 2 places forward within that organization. And if I can't move 2 places forward within that organization, what are those 2 places forward, be it outside of that organization, that this job
Hmm.
then sets me up for that success?
Yeah, interesting. Um, so I'm going to ask, do you have room for a fifth F around fulfillment, or does that come in with fit and function?
It comes in with fit. Because a lot of times when I'm working with my clients, we're exploring exactly what is going to be the right fit for them. And so that fulfillment piece, which we absolutely have to acknowledge, that's about what I often say to them is the thing that lets you get up in the morning and realize you get to go to work instead of having to go to work. It's that thing that intrinsically motivates us to go, okay, here's what I get to do today, and here's why that lights me up.
Yeah, that's great. And so you said the challenging thing here is trying to figure out your path forward, right? I got to ask,
Yeah.
how is AI impacting that today? Can people still see that path?
So I believe that AI absolutely is a part of that path simply because AI is not going away. I think
Right,
when we learn to use AI as a thought partner, as an opportunity to strategize, you know, years ago we went to Google to get an answer. I believe that in
right.
today's market, in today's place, we're going to AI to think differently, to engage with the AI technology in a way that gives me different levels of information that can help me strategize or plan a conversation or an initiative or a project direction, whatever that might be. And when I think about moving career forward, AI can be an absolutely wonderful partner in terms of what skills am I actively working on, as well as what skills am I missing, right? To ask the AI technology, you know, where are there gaps in my career profile or within my resume that don't make me an intriguing or enticing candidate for X company? Okay. I
Yeah.
think AI becomes a valuable tool for us to integrate with in our career development.
Yeah, I love that. And that's one of the things that we talk about all the time with our AI Career Institute. And I don't ever want to ask AI for the answer, but I find that if I ask it for, three or four options, that very often it will come at the problem from a perspective that I would never have considered.
Yes,
And so
I
filling in those
absolutely agree.
gaps is a really great way to do that.
Mhm.
To talk about, hey, what are the skills that I have that are translatable to this future, this forward, this next step, and what am I missing? And oh, by the way, you can also ask AI to help you learn those skills.
Yes.
So that's a great way for people to think about, again, use AI as a thought partner to think deeper. I think one of the other challenges, and I don't know if you find this to be the case, is people are really focused on what AI can help you do faster,
Yes.
right? And yes, there are things that AI can help you do faster, no question about it. But the real magic is, as you said, when AI can help you do things better or differently.
Yeah. Um, real quick. So, several months ago, our cat was dying, and she had an
Mm,
inoperable tumor in her jaw, and we knew it was coming. And the vet had basically said to us about 3 to 6 weeks. And I hopped on AI and I put in all of this data about the cat behavior. And I asked AI this question. We're not ready to let her go, but we don't want to see her suffer any more than what she needs to. When will we know it's time to say goodbye?
that's an interesting question.
Right? And what ChatGPT in particular spit out for us, there were things we hadn't considered. Like one of the things we hadn't considered was her restlessness in how she would like not be able to lay in a spot for a particular point in time, or she would constantly lick and groom herself more so than usual. We understood the hiding behavior and the lack of eating and everything. But the restlessness was one that really made us take notice. And so we'd be sitting in the living room watching TV, and she had her spot on the couch. I'm not gonna lie, Steve, she still has her spot on the couch, right? So we would watch her and be like, oh, she only laid down for about 5 minutes, whereas before it would be like an hour, right?
Mm,
So what we learned from that experience was something of like taking AI from a personal point of view. I turned that into a podcast episode where I talked about how if I was interviewing for a job and an employer asked me, how are you using AI in your life right now? I would use that example and talk about how I engaged it and how I challenged it and why it was a thought partner and where it was insightful, because that's relatable. And that's one of those things in this job market where I know employers are looking for that kind of relatability to see if they're finding the best talent to bring them into their organization.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. Again, you as a mid-career professional, as any professional, you need to figure out how it is that you can showcase your ability to use AI in a personal story like that. Really powerful, John. So if you want to grow your career or your business in this kind of environment, right? We said, banging your head against the wall kind of environment. What are a few tips that you would put out there for the mid-career professional that really wants to make sure that they're leveraging in every way they possibly can?
There's a few things I'd offer, Steve. And first of all, I don't want to overlook this, but obviously a mid-career professional needs to have the technical expertise for whatever job it is that they're doing. They have to be able to perform the core competencies of that position.
Sure.
If all of that is equal, what I want to offer your listeners today is that right now we are in a job market that is more than ever anchored in trust. And by that, what I mean is we have to be able to communicate where an employer is able to trust our abilities, our experiences, our results, and tell a story that very concretely backs that up, not in a way that makes us sound like we're being needy, graspy, or desperate, but in a way to say, this is what I've done in the past. This is where it was impactful for my current or previous organization. And if we believe this is a great fit, this is where I'm going to help you do the same thing here. If we can find a way to leverage our relationships and find a way in that 30-minute interview, which is very difficult to do, but find a way to start instilling a sense of trust, be it by communicating our results and doing it in a very genuine and authentic way that ultimately communicates the value we're going to provide for that employer and their organization, that's where we get to stand out. There's a lot of people out there that are able to do a particular job. Why are you the best fit? What makes you stand out? Why are you the person that can come in and create that kind of change within the organization? If the employer cannot trust you within this interview process, you will never get the job offer.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think, once one of the things that I think we learned during COVID, right, was, we have an awful lot of these Zoom interactions, right? But we as human beings need to figure out how to make connections. And so whether those connections happen over a Zoom or better in person if you can, right? Those are really crucial to moving a relationship forward. And let's face it, getting a job is building a relationship. It's the start of a relationship between you and that hiring manager.
Absolutely. And very quickly, because it is such an employer's market right now, and by right now, I'm saying end of 2025 when we're recording this and early first quarter 126 when this will probably drop. But it's so difficult for the job seeker, the applicant, to get all their points across. But what they're often missing is somewhere in the question, Steve, there's an objection. There's an objection that the interviewer is subtly asking about, whether it be about your skill set, your leadership, your communication style, whatever it is. You as the applicant have to be able to decipher and determine exactly what that objection is and find a way in the interview to overcome it. That's
Yeah,
how you
that's
start building that relationship in a different way that makes the interview process much more personal rather than transactional.
yeah. I'm reminded again that the interview process is much like a sales conversation. But what you're selling is yourself and your ability, but you have to build that trust because purchases are made on emotion.
Yes.
And if you want the employer, the hiring manager to buy you,
Mm,
then you have to build that emotional connection. That trust is a vital part of that.
right. Yeah. Do you remember Saturn automobiles?
I do.
Right. Okay. So I had one, right? It was one of my first cars that I had, right? Their whole ploy was that there was no negotiating. You went into that dealership, you paid the sticker. Why did they do that? Because that was about establishing trust. That was about establishing trust in that sales relationship because you weren't going to have to deal with the quote unquote sleazy car salesperson,
Right.
right? You just knew what you were going to get when you walked in. And so all of that stress and anxiety was taken away because you paid what was on the sticker and that was it. Right.
Yep.
And so to your point, in an interview, it is that sales conversation and the job applicant has to find a way to be able to tell their story from a place of value and service about how their expertise is going to help that organization, but do it in a way that one, establishes trust, two, isn't needy, salesy, or desperate, and thirdly, honors that relationship because look, even if you don't get the job, you never know where that person or how that person might recommend you for something else.
Might find, and again, it's finding a job is not about what you know.
Oh, yeah,
It's about who you know.
absolutely.
And so building that relationship, even if that isn't the perfect fit for you, building that relationship so you have somebody else who can speak well of you within the field or area that you want to go, right?
Well, yeah, and to your point earlier, so if a mid-career professional or any professional in that regard is using an AI tool to optimize their resume, optimize their LinkedIn, maybe help them with a networking strategy or help prepare them for an interview, when they're face to face with that hiring manager, whether it be in person or over Zoom, game on. You can't
That's
rely on
right.
the AI tool at that point.
Let's just say it's more of a challenge.
Yes.
You can't you I suppose you could have the AI listening to the conversation and feeding you answers, but boy, it better sound like you.
Yeah.
Because
And
even if you
ethically it
get
better
through the
be.
first one,
Right.
yes, well,
Yeah.
there's the whole ethics thing
The
as
whole ethics
well,
behind
right?
that too. Yeah. No, but
Um,
such a good point though. Absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So what's next for you in your business, John?
Well, thanks, Steve, for asking that. So, what's next is continuing to connect with and reach out to more mid-career professionals who typically feel stuck, undervalued, or underutilized, and find a way to connect with them in a way that maybe there's something that I have that can help them in some way. So, in terms of a business, it might be a masterclass, a low ticket offer, something that they can consume some content pretty quickly. It might be my community or membership or hiring me for one-on-one coaching or bringing me into their organization for a keynote or a workshop. It's simply keeping doing what's been working, but continuing to double down on it and find more ways to reach people. Next year,
Yeah.
2026 will be the 10th year of my business.
Wow, congratulations.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you. Yeah.
so I understand you have a free gift to offer to our listeners. What
I
would that be?
do. I do, absolutely. So right on my website at johnneral.com, my free gift for all of you is come join my newsletter community. So it's a twice weekly newsletter. There's also a couple of free guides on there as well, but the newsletter really is that opportunity to keep this leadership conversation and career transition conversation going at mid-career. And the other thing, Steve, I just wanted to extend an offer is that if anybody is ever considering hiring a career coach, so whether it be me or somebody else in your orbit, I'd just like to invite everyone to check out my podcast, The Mid-Career GPS, and particularly episode 281, Tips for Finding a Career Coach. There are some really helpful tips in there to help you make the best decision as to why and how that career coach may be the best person for you.
That's great. And if somebody wants to reach out to get engaged, what's the best way for them to do that?
Best way to do that is to just email me at John, JOHN, at johnneral, NERAL.com. Same thing on the website. You can also find me on LinkedIn and direct message me there and be happy to start a conversation with anybody.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that concludes our show. Thanks so much to my guest, John Neral, an executive and mid-career transition coach. I hope you learned something about how mid-career professionals can navigate the ever-changing, dynamic, always stressful, bang your head against the wall job market in 2026. I know I did. Thanks for listening. You've been listening to the Profit Minds podcast. This is your host, Dr. Stephen Kirch. Please visit www.profitminds.net for other episodes or to contact me. Thank you for your positive feedback, comments, questions, and for sharing this show with others. Thanks for listening. Have a grateful day.